Yeah, first, I have several things. So first, I'm here to inspect the public records report.
Inspect the public records report.
Yep.
Okay. I believe that we had some communication from our administration office
Okay.
about you coming, and there was some anticipation that you were gonna make a payment as a down payment toward that public records report.
No, that was a public records request that I submitted, but I'm going to actually abandon that one and submit a different one today. The public records report is a report that you already have maintained. You should have filed it with the OIP each year, so you have a copy of it. And that's one of the public records according to statute, which is available for inspection upon request. So there's no formal request that needs to be made for it.
And you said request would be what?
Yeah, no, I don't think that we do have that available here for that, but if you wanna submit some kind of written request, we can send it up to our administration.
Okay, so it's disappointing because about 5-6 weeks ago, I came in to request this, and you're required to have it available for public inspection according to the statute. So now,
Every branch?
every state agency is required to have a public
But
records
our
report.
agency has different branches, and I'm not sure we have the same things at every branch.
Yeah, you should. Anybody at whichever agency, at whichever branch of the agency that the public can come to, should have this available for public inspection. And at this point, I've established that now you're knowingly in violation because I communicated the
Could I get that number
requirements
just in
to you
case?
already. And now you've been given about 5 or 6 weeks to do it, and now you don't have it.
Well, you said that you were gonna come in a week ago, last Monday or something, and bring in some money for this other thing.
Cause like
so
I'm trying to
we're
get
all
the
ready
court
for
orders and
that.
stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Correct,
Adding
but you
my stuff
weren't
in order
prepared
to.
for, well, I also let Brandon Flores know that I would be coming in to inspect the public records report. And,
As
yeah,
part of
I
the
did,
communication?
in part of our communication, yeah. And that's not a public records request, because that is something that anybody in public should be able to come in and inspect during regular business hours. In fact, at this point, I would ask you, since you are required to allow your public records to be available for inspection during normal business hours, what public records do you have on the site that I can inspect today?
I'd be happy to help with anything that we do in our normal course of business, anything that, this is what I'm here for, is to help the public.
Okay.
So, I don't have people coming in here asking to inspect public records reports, so I don't know where any public records reports are. If there's something about your case that you wanna know, I get questions about that all the time, and I'm happy to share you anything that will help you with a case, you know.
Yeah, we may get to that, but what I'm trying to establish is because I make sure that agencies such as this are in compliance with the codes that they are supposedly bound to. And
Sounds like a valuable service.
yeah, and I point out anytime an agency is trying to
Yeah,
avoid
I got it.
transparency or trying
And
to
then that
not
I should
comply with
expect
the
a call
codes.
from them or something.
And one of my concerns with this agency is that when I asked about the public records report
Thank you.
last time, one of the lawyers that worked here got on the phone and he's like, "What's that?" And that's very disturbing. And then he wanted to play games and treat me rudely, and they haven't really taken seriously that you are required by statute to have the public records report available for public inspection. A lot of states call it the Public Records Index. Here they specifically in the statutes call it the Public Records Report.
Well, I wouldn't hide something from you. If I had something that was available to the public, that was some kind, I don't even know what would be on that public records report, to be honest.
Yeah, it's the title of the public records that you guys do keep. It's supposed to facilitate public records requests so that we don't have a lot of miscommunication, so I can.
Well, just to talk it out, because maybe there is something that I can give you. What kind of things would you think would be on this report that you would want to look at?
It would have memorandums regarding policy changes, updates. It would have what you call different types of reports. So where, one, agency may call a type of report, X, you might call it Y, and so when I'm doing a public records request, it lets me know, okay, I need to call it Y in this case. So it'll have things like that, and just, it should be a notebook that's updated every year. And you are required by statute to file it every year before July, I believe, with the Office of Information Practices. So if you don't even have it on this site, here, how can I know that you filed it with Office of Information Practices? You guys have it online, RSS, I believe you call it. But you should
So
also
there's,
have a physical copy because people shouldn't be expected to go online.
Oh, how do you guys take payments?
So either check or money order.
Well,
Okay.
if it's something that's online, that's available in bulk, I'd be happy to print it
Oh.
out and give you a physical copy.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be ideal, yeah, or
Okay.
allow me to use a computer or device that has
And then,
access to it. But yeah,
So can we
Well, let me see what I've
like
got right here.
divvy it up?
generally what happens
amongst
when these types of audits are
the
done
big
is,
laws?
if I came 6 weeks ago and let them know, then typically they'll scramble so that next time I come in, here you are, here it is. We got in compliance, right?
Oh, we don't, okay. So like we, okay,
You can send in for, you
Yeah.
have coupons for every case.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you
but they
can
all have
attach.
the same like PIN number.
Yeah, it's the PIN
Oh.
number of the person paying.
Okay.
Yeah, but it'll will be amongst all of these cases.
Oh, okay. But I can pay with card
You can pay with card or you
Okay.
can come back,
with the,
but you're gonna have to pay the interest.
oh, if you pay with card,
Yeah.
I'll make a money order.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, let me
Yeah.
show you.
Yeah.
So the thing that you're referencing is something for our division in particular, not
It's-
just for the department.
No, it's okay.
It's for every state agency, so every physical location that the public
Oh,
can
tomato.
access should have this.
It
But
is.
you're not
Maybe
talking
it's-
particularly
you
about
gotta
the whole
open
department
it.
of the
I
Attorney
don't
General,
know.
just the child support division.
Yeah, this
Is there
specific
address?
agency, yeah.
Okay.
Is this also tied to the Attorney General? Because it was my understanding they were on Kinoli.
Maybe I'm
Kinoli.
here.
The
Is there an address?
the Child Support Enforcement Agency is under the auspices of the Department of the Attorney General.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Do you know my name?
I believe I did.
What is it?
Well, I think your name is Robert Estabrook.
Okay. Would you have gotten that by email or phone conversation?
Um, I think maybe my supervisor might have gotten it by email or phone.
Okay.
And just kind of conveyed to me to, last week or whenever it was that you were gonna come in, just to watch for you and to let her know when you came in kind of thing.
Okay.
So that she could give you what you've been working on with Brandon or.
Oh,
Deanna
okay.
or Brandon.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm probably going to be asking for some names to do a public records request because I wanna make sure I get this.
Oh, read that one. Okay.
Yes, so you can make the money order on to CSE. And then on the next section of the,
Okay.
to CSEA.
Okay. Can we shorten it? We could
Yeah,
just write
you can
CS.
just put CSEA.
Okay.
Yeah, so on
Okay.
the memo portion of your
So
money
this thing
order,
you were
you
calling
put is
RSS,
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
although
say
it'll be
you-
on the little
you're
coupon.
aware that that might be
Okay,
online
just in
or-
case, yeah.
Yeah,
I believe that's what they're calling
and then
it.
you can to that address.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be
Like I
a
said, it's gonna be up
online
to them
database
how they
because
do
that's the
Okay.
reason you file
Okay.
it with the OIP
Okay.
is they,
Thank
so
you.
that they oversee this online database that the public is supposed to be able to access online. But there's an issue to that. We can't be moving everything to online only. You have to be able to serve people who don't have internet access and whatnot. And there's been a lot of situations where people come in asking for the physical thing, and people in your position are very rude to them and say, well, we have that online and I'm not gonna help you, which is unacceptable behavior, obviously.
That's I believe. Yeah, but mostly we have people come in and ask for things related to their cases.
Right, yeah, I know. It's education. You guys are probably 1993, so you're probably about 22 years out of compliance. Or 20, I guess that's 24 years? I don't know, I can't do math right now.
That's fine. Alright, well, without a couple more clues, I'm not sure I can find the thing that you're thinking of for me to print out.
Okay.
It's a public information report.
Public records report. You can look up, let's see, Hawaii Revised Statute. If you look up this Hawaii Revised Statute, and if you actually look up section B and C, then you'll see the part where you're supposed to submit it to the OIP. And they're
That would almost certainly happen in our administration office in Guam.
well, so they're trying to indicate that because of section C, they say you have to go to OIP to get the record, but if you filed it with them, then you also have the record. So it should be available for public inspection. And it could be a matter of call the right person, call who you need to call. You know, I imagine there's a reasonable time that I can wait to inspect it, but you should be able to acquire it.
Let me see if there's somebody I can call who knows more about it.
Hi, are you guys all together?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Sorry to keep you.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
Yep.
I did just talk to Mr. Flores.
Yeah, he's incorrect in whatever information he gave you, but let's hear it.
Well, I guess the first thing to say is just that Brandon says that there is no log like that here. And so,
Do you have the internet?
do I have the internet? Yes, I do.
Do you mind pulling up this code?
Oh, you just gonna make payment?
No.
Yeah.
I have a question. He's trying to buy a house. I know they take it out of his paycheck, but somewhere along the line in the 7 years, he owed $500. So, that's what he needs, Yep. He doesn't need all of it. Every day in Kona. So he needs
Well,
to.
we have an office. We have an office in Guam.
There's a couple
so I'm looking at, 92 F11.
Let's go to section E.
Oh, yeah.
Except for holidays. And then just bring like a valid picture ID, and we can process it, we can try to process it, like, as he's sitting there.
Oh, okay.
I lied.
Yeah, cause his closing date is Friday,
So there's a,
and I guess it just came out, he didn't know that he had a $500, I guess somewhere in the
He's gonna
7
have
years.
to contact us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's gonna have to, the best way
so
for him to.
92 F11 has an
We
exception
read
in
next back, yeah.
92
Yes, and back.
F13.
Yeah.
That's in process.
And which exception is that?
It's already next week.
Mm-hmm.
It still gives us
It just says,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
92 F11B that you refer me to, it says, except as provided in section 92 F13.
Oh, I'm sorry, wait,
Cause they said they need the.
okay, go ahead, keep going.
Judgment.
So I want to take a look at
Oh, okay.
F13.
Yeah,
It has a bunch of exceptions to the general rule,
right,
it's saying the part shall not require the disclosure of various things, like,
yeah, but
Well,
public
when he
records doesn't
comes,
fall under an
yeah.
exception. And then also, if you look at, I meant to probably write down 18B instead of 11B. This is applicable, because this shows that, you have to have those public records available, because public records don't fall under an exception.
Title guarantee.
Public records are public, so they don't fall under an exception.
Oh, okay.
Public records that you're
in
required to
the statute,
maintain.
it specifies several exceptions, but
Right, that's if a public records request is made, but public records that you're supposed to have available for inspection do not fall under an exception. Those are available to anybody who comes in and asks. You can't accept a record that is
Okay.
by statute supposed to be available for public inspection, as you'll see if you look at 18B.
so here's.
3/8 at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and then.
I remember her.
Till 3:30 usually, and then drive home. Yeah.
Each agency compile a public records, a public report describing the records it routinely uses and maintains using forms prescribed by the
Wait,
Office of
me, I-
Information Services.
No, he live here
Um,
in Hilo, but he works construction, but they drive.
Yeah, and then like you were asking, all of those numbered items are what it'll look like,
Yeah.
because those are the things that are in it.
So he just gotta take the
The
day off.
process is way is to probably half the office.
Yeah.
So I see kind of what you're looking
Yeah.
at
Might
there.
take about 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then go ahead and look at C, section C.
Physically be
Yeah,
we just need some from it.
okay,
Yeah, and then, we can,
cause he came.
Okay, yeah, so it doesn't look like you're crazy and asking for this, it looks like stuff that, you know, you're reading the statute.
Right. I am reading the statute, and I've recognized that Brennan Flores is not. I wrote him a response laying it out legally. Couple emails later, he tried saying the exact same thing he had said. So I said, well, at this point, you're making it circular. I need a response to what I'm saying, and I wrote it out again, and he hasn't responded to that. And now he's giving you false information. And I'll add that he is establishing that he is knowingly doing
So it's
this.
best he come.
According to Hawaii statutes, he's knowingly violating the statutes
Yeah.
because he has been made aware of the arguments and the statutes and the law.
He described that he had an idea, he said to me, of what you were maybe thinking of. That is a sort of a log that they keep public records requests in. That was the closest thing he could think of to what, you know, what you were talking about. But he says that log's not maintained at this branch. But he says if you abandoned the previous request and you wanna make a new request, then he's happy to look at any request that you wanna make in writing.
Yeah, so specifically what I'm looking for is each of those numbered things. You would have the name and location of each set of records, the authority under which the records are maintained, the categories of individuals for whom records are maintained, the categories of information or data maintained in the records, et cetera, and so on. So I'm not just looking for a binder of the records requests that have been made. I'm looking for the public records report in order to help facilitate requests, because obviously Brandon has had some trouble interpreting my request that I've made, and that's why we're at this issue where he's also
Let me I'll write down this statute here and pass it to him.
Yeah, make sure you see it, and I'll tell you what his argument will be already. He'll say that because,
That fax number, 808, this number here.
he'll say that because of section C, that I have to ask the OIP for this public records report. But that's not accurate, because when you jump to 92 F11B.
Hi.
Hi, Karen, how are you? Good.
Yeah. Were you,
I don't know why you interrupted, but.
no, sorry, were you going here for the payment?
No, I'm not gonna make a payment on that, because I'm gonna do a separate public records request, because one thing that I noticed that Brandon did is, for the first request, he set an amount of the estimated cost of what it would be based upon requesting 2 years worth of emails, right? So that's an amount of work, and so he set that amount at, what was it? $1,090, right? So then when I abandoned that request and made a second one, and I asked for 6 months of emails, he only lowered the amount by $30, right? So, 75% decrease in the amount of work, but he only lowered the amount by $30,
So
right?
that's something you would, discuss with Brandon?
Well, that's something that I'm going to get, that's one of the requests that I'm going to make on my new request, is how he, the procedure which he used to establish the mathematics behind it. Because I believe that what he was doing was saying, okay, well, it was this amount and you weren't willing to pay it, so, and you asked for a lot less work, so ha ha ha, I'm just gonna make it $30 less, and basically F you to me, right? So that's what it seems like happened, and so I want to establish that he's knowingly doing these things. And I also want to point out that about when I was here the first time, I informed you of the codes, which requires you to have the public records report accessible during normal business hours. And hold on, you have a tendency to interrupt, and I'm making a point. I informed you of the codes which require you to have this document available for public inspection, and I came today to ask for it, and it's still not being done. So now, according to the Hawaii Revised Statutes, I've established that you are knowingly violating the statutes at this point.
Go talk to Brandon about that. He did explain to you that you're mistaken about that because it's stored at a different location.
You can't.
We're not gonna get into that.
Yeah,
Discuss
so-
it with Brandon.
Right, but what he did is, the last time I emailed him, he did not respond to the things that were said,
Yeah,
right?
so you
To
need
the,
to
hold
speak
on,
with
to
Brandon.
the law that was cited. And I'll let you know, it's not your responsibility to abdicate responsibility to follow the law to Brandon Flores. It is your responsibility to actually study the code and not just follow instruction from somebody who is misinformed about the code. So you have knowingly violated the statutes. I am not incorrect. It is Brandon that is incorrect. And I'm working on the story now to make sure that the public knows that this is an issue with this office. So the internet is going to know.
If there's any kind of child support related stuff we can help you with, we do that all day long, and we really like helping people. I don't know what it is that, the things that you're asking for just aren't part of our daily.
But you read the statute, right? And now I'm gonna point out something, right? The way you're using words, the way you're communicating has altered since Karen is here, and she has told you that Brandon has said that I am incorrect. So now the word patterns and the way you're speaking has altered to where before you saw on the statute what it was saying, you saw what I was requesting, right? But now you seem to be indicating as though that's not important. And again, as a public servant, it is also your responsibility to ensure compliance with the statutes and not just abdicate that responsibility to a supervisor.
Okay, so your purpose today, is, because the reason for your visit here from our Mr. Brandon was that you would make payment. You're not here to make payment, so what's your purpose?
So the first thing that I'm doing is establishing that now you are knowingly in violation of the statutes, which I have.
What we can do is we can lead you to our legal department. Do you wanna go to their department?
I don't wanna get the runaround, I just want you guys to
I'm
be
not
in
giving you the
compliance.
runaround, but they would be more, our legal arm would have better guidance for you perhaps.
Okay, and all, my concern with that is last time you had a lawyer call me,
Yeah,
and,
that's
and,
where he's at,
and he was like, what's the public records report?
that's where he's at.
Right, but you see the problem, he's like, what's the public records report? He didn't even know what I was talking about, even though it's defined in the statute. Have you read this statute? Have you read 92F18 section B?
No, that's why we have a legal section.
So you haven't read it yourself.
With these things.
So you haven't read it yourself, so you're attempting to abdicate your responsibility
We are
to
here-
follow the code.
we
I'm
are
sorry,
here
I'm sorry.
To service child support issue matters.
Right, so I don't interrupt you, so please do not interrupt me. Okay? So it is your responsibility also to comply with the codes and not abdicate that responsibility to somebody else. So you should familiarize yourself with the codes, because 6 weeks after asking for it the first time and it still hasn't been done, that's not acceptable. So,
So who do you want to speak to?
I don't,
Brandon is the one
all that I
doing
want,
this request.
all that I want is to inspect the public records
There
report.
is no public records here to inspect.
Right, and that's unacceptable, because you are required to have it.
We don't have any public records here to inspect.
You are required,
We are here for child support matters.
right, and you are a state agency, correct? Right, so
But we don't
why
have-
under 92F18 section B, each agency, and I'll note that you're federal, you're not a state agency, correct? Or are you?
we are
You're a state agency, okay. Each agency shall compile a public report describing the records it routinely uses or maintains using forms prescribed by the Office of Information Practices. Each agency. This is an agency, correct?
Right.
So what part of each are we not hearing?
I think you should talk to some public inspectors, talk to the Office of Information Practices.
I
and
have.
see- Well, I mean, but get them to enforce on us, somebody with authority to enforce on us can come and talk to us about the rules as they're
Well,
supposed to be enforced.
Right, I think the internet has authority over you guys. I think when the internet finds out that you're not in compliance with the codes, I think that you'll see the effect that the internet can have.
We'll have to prepare ourselves for that.
So the next thing that I have a question of is, when somebody calls the customer service line and they escalate to request a supervisor, what is your policy regarding the time frame in which a supervisor is supposed to call the individual back? I believe your policy states it's 48 hours. Can I confirm that?
It's approximately 48 hours, but it depends if the supervisor is in.
Okay, so is there ever a time where the 48 hours would reasonably be converted to whatever, say, 30 times 24 is? I believe 7,200 hours, would that ever be a adequate amount of time? Meaning, I requested a supervisor on 2 occasions, and I was told a supervisor will be contacting you within 48 hours, and it has not happened yet. So I want the policy.
So you have a case with us then?
You already know I do. You already know what my name is,
Okay.
right?
And I believe
Was
the
I
other
incorrect?
office did leave numbers, a message for you at the number that was provided. Yes, they did.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they didn't. I guarantee they didn't.
They did.
And I'll tell you why I know that. Because the very first time, they wrote down a different last number.
Right.
And when that lawyer called me, he spoke a different last number, right? So I called a second time to say, okay, I'm still, here's the proper phone number. I would still like to talk to a supervisor, and I have been watching all of my messages, I have been watching all of my calls, and I have seen nothing.
Since that second call?
Right.
Is there something we can help you with now? Is there a child support matter we can help you with now?
What's your name?
My name's Nathan.
Nathan what?
It's Nathan Leopold.
Okay, well, I can get that person on the phone if you want to speak with them about the case.
What I want to speak to is about Annette. I'm attempting to make a complaint about Annette.
Annette?
Mm-hmm. When you call 808-933-8802, she's one of the customer service reps.
8802, that number there, the 8802?
Yeah.
That doesn't get to us actually. Try. It'll ring and ring and ring for, there used to be a number.
Let's see. Maybe I wrote down the, no, that's,
It might be a Google number, but we're trying to get that out because it doesn't reach us.
let's see.
Definitely do our best to try and handle all the customer
Yeah.
service issues that we can, and we'd be happy to do that for you too, or anybody that calls.
Well, the issue I'm having is she refused to take a public records request verbally over the phone like she is obligated to. And she said, quote, "I don't work for you." Now, it's my understanding that all of you are public servants, and it's also my understanding that you consider me a public person. In fact, I would argue that perhaps I'm operating in public capacity at this moment. So that would mean that you do work for me. And we will get to your guys' tendency to confuse public with private to assume to have authority over people in a moment.
So in order to help you with the case, we probably need to see some photo ID. Just to make sure we're not sharing your private details with somebody else.
Yeah, so now it's just ringing. It used to answer, and a woman named Annette used to answer. She's in the Honolulu office. So what is the current customer service number?
Yeah, you must have called the other, our real customer service number.
It was over a month ago. So.
No, yeah, that number hasn't been. So, voice response, customer, 808-207-9915.
Okay.
That's the customer service. Let me just double check.
YE Child Support Enforcement Agency Automated Information System. This automated system is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Information is current as of March 11, 2025. Please remind all custodial parents that payments are now distributed electronically to your bank account or through a debit card issued by the U.S. Bank. If you have questions about this, please visit our website or speak with a customer service representative. If you are a first-time user and need instructions for using the system, say instructions or press 1. For account and payment information, say account or press 2. For general information, say general information or press 3. If you are an attorney, employer, or out-of-state agency, say special contact or press 4. To speak with a representative about any other information at any time, say representative or press 0. To repeat these please hold. Your call is being transferred. Your call may be recorded for quality assurance purposes. The estimated hold time for the next representative is approximately 4 minutes. All agents are on another call. Please stay on the line for the next available agent. Your call may be recorded for quality assurance purposes.
I'm here at the last window.
Good afternoon, this is Janet. How can I help you? you.
Hey Janet, is this the office in Honolulu?
Actually, we're in Kapolei.
Oh, Kapolea, okay. What's the phone number for the office in Honolulu?
We don't have one. This is the child support office.
Oh, this is the only one where you do customer service?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and
We're located in Kapolei, on Oahu though. Yeah.
oh, okay. So you have an employee who does customer service named Annette?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, that's all I needed to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good one. Sounds like a reasonable thing to do. We have a form, I can give you a piece of blank paper if you wanna just execute a blank.
Well, that form, I don't think that form will work, so I'll probably have like a piece of paper. Yeah, oops. So I'm gonna write it from memory, but I have the call
I'm sure
recorded.
you can get to the essence of it, and I think that the essence of it, is pretty relevant and effective. It's something that should be explained to her.
Yeah. And I'll assume that you guys have the dates as a matter of record in your phone system. You record calls, correct?
I don't know if they're recorded, but probably, usually people take notes after a phone call, so probably there's notes on the case. Yeah. Copy of this, and then date, time stamped it there.
Perfect, thank you. The next question is, what is the policy regarding customer service needing a PIN and then mailing the PIN to the associated address when somebody requests it?
The idea of the PIN and access code is that it's a way for us to positively identify someone with a child support case to make sure that we're not giving a person's personal private information to the wrong person.
Mhm.
So generally, someone would present with a photo ID, and then we could give them the PIN and access code that they could use later, because we have to verify the identity of the person before, the PIN and access code itself is kind of a strong form of identification. And if we're trying to preserve its strength so that it's not easy for, say, we deal with a lot of like divorce cases where people are, at least in that moment, pretty in a place of like enmity toward each other. So we wanna make sure that one participant does not gain access to the other participant's private information, so. It's a little bit of a complicated thing sometimes when somebody's over the phone and, maybe out of state where they can't, walk in and show a photo ID, then generally we would take a signed and dated letter requesting the PIN and access code.
Okay, well, over the phone, I was told that they would mail it to my address by Annette, and she never mailed it. I haven't received it. So it's like your office, between Brandon dragging his feet regarding these record requests, between the games that are being played with me, and it's all making it so I would like to make a payment today. Can I do that? Or is all of your dragging of the feet causing me to not be able to make a payment while you're attempting to issue orders to try and force me to?
Sorry, was that an example or was that a specific request?
Oh, it is a request. I would love to be able to make a payment
I'm not
today.
mocking you or anything else, I'm just clarifying, because I understand what you're saying, I do accept that people work for the state, serve the public, and that you're a member of the public, and, you know, I don't think there's any reason for us to try and obfuscate or make things difficult, and I think it's brave and good that you're trying to, you know, see that laws are applied fairly and justly and interpreted according to, you know, rational thought as much as they can be.
And especially logic, as I'm about to exhibit, and I'm sorry to predict the future, but you're going to get upset too with the question that I ask, because you're going to misapply logic.
Okay.
Right? So,
Did you wanna deal with the payment thing? Cause I wasn't trying to get away from that payment question, we just haven't quite addressed it directly yet.
yeah, so there's one of two things that I need in order to be able to make a payment. I either need the factual evidence that I am obligated to obey any of the orders of the people who are issuing orders in this situation, okay, that's A, or B, I need the threat of violence. So if you don't pay, then this is what will happen to you, regardless of whether or not we have the factual evidence. So when I asked for factual evidence, they said they would mail me factual evidence. This is what they mailed me, these pieces of paper, okay? So I'm humbly asking you, please circle the factual evidence on these pieces of paper that will prove that I have an obligation to obey any of the orders on these pieces of paper.
So, it's a interesting part of living in the world that we're living in this country, that a judge can sign an order on a piece of paper and file it at court, and that piece of paper has the force of law in effect. Maybe not natural law, maybe not human law, but in effect, in the sense that it tends to be enforced by credit unions, credit agencies, police, things like that.
So just to clarify, I get what you're saying. So just to clarify, we're normalizing slavery then, correct?
It's an interesting question. I could certainly understand an argument. I mean, you know, I don't think we've quite, it's a jump in the present conversation, but I think it wouldn't take too many jumps to get from here to there.
It's just logic, right? There's no, it's all their legal opinions. You can't, to say that the code applies because the code says it applies, which is gonna be your jump. We have these codes which say they apply to you, right? Well, that's called circular reasoning. That's a logical fallacy.
What I mostly like to try and help people with here is just kind of understanding how the system works, because it shouldn't be so arcane and complicated that a regular person coming off the street can't understand it, feels lost, feels, you know, abused or intimidated, and doesn't know how to make choices and move forward through this process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I try to demystify as much as I can how the process works, in the sense of what are my options? What should I expect? If I do this, then what should I expect to happen? Or if I wanna do this, what are the steps I need to take to get this done in the context of a child support case? And on the other hand, to try and give some suggestion of, in my experience, how the legal system works with respect to child support to help people make, good choices. Because it's one thing to talk about, natural law or true justice or something like that, but
I'm not even talking about any of those things. What I'm referring to is, you guys are making a claim that you have authority over me. I'm asking for facts that you do. It's that simple. I'm asking you to use facts to defend your claim that you have authority to force me to pay this money. Otherwise, absent that, simply let me hear the threat of violence from your lips.
okay. Well, I'm definitely not gonna threaten you with violence.
Well, you have, like this agency has, right? Because you have no factual evidence that I'm obligated to obey these orders from these judges. I never even had a chance to defend myself in court because you guys did improper service. And I would have been to the court date and defended this zealously, and I demand that opportunity.
Well, one thing to know is that there's a 30-day appeal window for anything that's filed at court. Around here, there's 30 days in which you can appeal this order by an appeal process that should be fairly accessible to you just through the family court. And I can walk you through some of how you might start with that so that you can get a hearing on this matter before it's after the 30 days. You'd have to start a whole new action about it. But within the 30 days, there is this window of appeal where you can obtain more or less fill in the blank kind of forms and request to appear without an attorney, which means generally on a day that these cases are being heard.
Isn't it funny though, these words that you're using? Request to appear without an attorney, as though I have to make that request, as though I don't have freedom, right? Are we normalizing slavery here again? And I'm just pointing out your word patterns to show that how embedded in this system you are.
I hear you.
And maybe you could take a close look at that.
I hear you, and it is I know what you mean about that.
So you know that this agency is threatening me with violence, because you cannot circle any factual evidence that I'm obligated to obey any of these judges' orders.
Well, the orders are predicated upon a certain understanding of the law.
And acceptance of slavery, right? Like if you have no factual evidence that the so-called, you're calling them laws, I call them Hawaii revised statutes, what's the HAR stand for? Something Hawaii.
Administrative rules.
Right. So those are codes, right? I don't call them laws because I understand that an actual law is inviolable, right? Nobody could violate a law.
Well, that's what I knew about natural law, that kind of thing when you're talking about just pure philosophy. But
Well, not
what I'm mostly
not
trying to help
philosophy. I'm talking about like inviolable. Like you can't.
Like the law of gravity.
Maybe you can't defy the law of gravity, right? So that would be a law. You're talking about codes, and I'm asking for facts that you have within your office, and maybe this should be part of the public records request. What facts do you have in your office that would prove that the HRSs, the HARs, and the Constitution apply to me just because I'm physically here?
Yeah, I haven't really seen anybody in this office ever really kind of defend things at that level.
I'm sorry. Here I am.
Well, no, I hear you.
I value freedom.
But this is what, and I appreciate that. It's good that people stand up for real freedom. But the best I can tell you is that, the way things work is that, this kind of paper does give creditors, it gives the legal system, it gives our agency the ability to, reach into your paycheck, reach into your bank account, and you can fight that, but you're going to be fighting it at a higher level than this office.
The ability or the willingness, right? Because a willingness to use violence is not evidence that you have the authority to, right? So I know we're gonna get to the impasse here. I already know. So all I'm saying is issue the threat of violence. Tell me, what's going to happen to me if I do not pay?
Well, if you do not pay, it'll become a debt that will accumulate, and it may interfere in the future when you go to, like, if you inherited property and then you tried to sell it, then the proceeds of that sale could be intercepted. If you thought you were eligible for a tax refund from the government, that tax refund could be intercepted. We don't tend to ever arrest people here over child support stuff. We definitely don't try to do anything that's physically violent to anybody in our office. You have a little different interpretation of the word violence than I commonly use, but most of the assaults that we would do would be financial assaults.
Right, debt slavery, yeah. So how would it affect me if I decided that I wanted to have a business?
I'm not sure I can think of any particular way that it would affect you if you wanted to have a business, except that you're right, if you owed a lot of child support money, it could impact, if you wanted to get a license from the state of Hawaii, the license could be withheld or suspended for non-payment of child support.
And then if I were to attempt to conduct business anyway, because there is no factual evidence that those codes apply, now here's where we start to talk about the violence, the men with the guns that come and shut me down, correct?
I'm not sure, we don't generally employ men with guns to
Police
enforce these
officers?
child. I hear you.
Well, I mean, if I don't have a business license and I'm attempting to run a business, right, now I have to worry about men with guns.
You're right. I mean, if you want to get along in the world as it is, it's a lot easier if you kind of just, even if you don't believe in it, if you adopt certain of the way things are kind of rules to get from A to B as simply as you can. But I'm not disputing you on the philosophical level.
Yeah, so if a child is being abused by a family, it's a lot easier if he just gets along by acting like that abuse isn't happening for the rest of his life until he can grow up and be old enough to leave that family, right? It sounds a lot like the abusive patterns of a narcissist, right? And I'm pointing to the narcissism behind the system and how it is a criminal act. Like, you may not realize this, but you are involved in a criminal racketeering action by enforcing these codes where there's no factual evidence that they apply to anybody. And the reason that you haven't faced consequence so far is because it is your belief that the only criminal prosecution you ever have to worry about is the criminal prosecution that happens within your system. But you have to worry about private criminal prosecution, and you don't realize yet what effect that can have. But that is something that you're going to have to face working for a violent agency.
I think that your ideas have some merit, and they'd probably be more effective just to pursue them at a higher level, to write editorials in the newspaper or to talk to legislators or people who, because basically we're just enforcing, according to statute.
Just following orders like the Nazis.
There you go. Just following, the rules laid out by the.
Just doing your job, which is the defense of the Nuremberg trials. Yep. I understand what you're saying, and I hope you hear yourself.
Well, what I mean is that to use your ideas to affect change, they'd probably be more effective if you were trying to change things at a public opinion level or at a, level of the legislature.
Within the system? No. I don't think that these changes can happen within the system because you all benefit from this system, correct? So you all derive your financial benefit. The only way the change is going to happen is to begin to conduct these criminal prosecutions and take away your control of the record. Right? So far you control the record. If somebody wants records regarding an arrest, if anybody wants records regarding anything, they have to come to you and pay you for them and ask for them. So as far as criminal prosecution on a private level, let's make this publicly accessible to everyone so that everyone can know, okay, Nathan Leopold, he's a member of a racketeering organization. Karen Hirata is a member of a racketeering organization.
So you're threatening us with violence too, right?
No. How am I threatening you with violence? What violence have I
just
talked about.
legal violence,
Legal violence, can you please explain what you're talking about?
what you're talking about.
How is that violence? How is making it public knowledge that you conduct criminal
Just threatening
activity?
us with private prosecution, right?
How is that a threat? How is that a violent threat?
Well, what is your definition of violence? I'm trying to use the
Something,
word that you use.
something which causes harm.
Aren't you talking about that we should be worried about? You said we should be worried about it. It sounds like something that would cause harm.
No. it's not.
But in any case, we're getting
No,
pretty far afield.
no, actually, we have to hone in on that because heaven forbid I ever get accused of threatening you guys with violence when I have not. So that has to be addressed. Okay.
Well,
So-
that was a off the cuff remark, and I retracted, and I apologize.
Well, still, I understand. You're doing that for your purposes, but I also know that you guys are investigators yourselves. So we will address this. Freedom of speech is not violence. If I document your activities as a public servant
Mhm,
and I document your crimes
mhm,
and show the logic of the crimes that you are committing,
mhm.
and I present it to, say, a jury and show them all of the evidence, and they find you guilty, and we create a public record which shows here is the evidence as it was laid out, here is Nathan Leopold guilty of being a part of a racketeering organization. That is freedom of speech. There's no violence there. Informing people of somebody's public activities, and especially of a criminal nature, will never be construed as violence. And I will not allow you to conduct an investigation to try to get me to confess to threatening you with violence, because I never would, and I don't ever want what I say to be misconstrued.
I hear what you're saying.
This is direct violence. What you guys do is direct violence on my finances. And you have already begun to conduct improper investigations and violate me on a private level when you are a public entity. So, if you want Bethana to get her money, then all I need is you to either show me the factual evidence that I am obligated to obey any of these orders, and I will happily pay you the money, or simply tell me we don't have it and this is what's going to happen to you, so that I have the factual evidence that you are committing a crime. I have the money right here. Tell me how much I need to give you.
This is the legal order, and you can comply with the legal order or not comply with the legal order. If you have questions about the legal order, we're happy to help you about the legal order.
And is there any factual evidence that I'm obligated to obey this order under some sort of a threat?
We're not threatening you.
Oh, you just talking about garnishing stuff and taking money, right? That would be theft if you don't have the evidence that you can do that.
Well, you're good at looking up regulations. This order is based on the kind of regulations that you like to look up.
So the
And
code
terms
applies.
of the order are within the order.
So we're on that circular reasoning, the code applies because the code says it applies? That's your factual evidence?
The factual evidence is embedded in the law, so it's complicated,
So
such as there is.
Well,
but-
it's not. You're saying it's written in the law, therefore that is the evidence that the law applies.
First of all, we don't generally take cash payments at this office. There was an exception made for that one other thing that you were trying to do, the public records request, but we're not really set up to take cash payments. But there are various ways that you can make a payment if you want to make a payment on your child support.
Okay, so do I have the confession yet that it is, there's no factual evidence of my authority or your authority over me to take my money?
No.
No, I don't. Okay. So then, can I have the threat of violence? What will happen? If you don't have factual evidence of the authority,
I'm not gonna give you a threat of violence either.
well, you have to tell me what will happen if I don't pay.
I've outlined certain things that will happen if you don't pay. We're gonna continue to try and obtain the child support to support the child that's named in the order.
Okay, and you realize he never got support from her, he was abused by her.
I don't know anything about your child or your case.
Okay.
And we're really pursuing this case, as I understand it, on behalf of the state of Washington. So we're mostly following a Washington state order.
So even more so, where does your authority come from?
I have certain authorities within the scope of my job that are derived from my employers that were the state of Hawaii.
State of Hawaii being a corporation, a business?
Purporting to be a state government.
Okay, but we also know it's an LLC, right? Or it's a type of a corporation of some kind? It's
I don't have that particular.
State of Hawaii, right? It officially organized itself as State of Hawaii on some year.
You know, if you want to try and overturn things at that level,
I'm
know that the
I'm not
IRS
trying
is
to,
a
no,
corporation.
I'm not trying to overturn anything. Please don't put words in my mouth. I'm asking for evidence of your claims. That's all I'm asking for.
What the things you're asking for are beyond the scope of my duties in this job.
Okay, so
I'm happy to do what I can to help, but I can't help you.
okay,
you know.
so you may want to review the Nuremberg trial and go ahead and take a look at that and see how well that argument worked out for them.
I appreciate the advice.
Now, so I think that it is clear that we have established that you're going to attempt to rob me if I don't make payments. So now, instead of being robbed, I would like to negotiate with you under threat of violence to be able to make monthly payments to you without any concern whatsoever with being robbed by these unlawful orders.
Can you put that in different terms?
No.
Oh. I don't really understand exactly what you're saying. You want to make a payment plan? Isn't there a payment plan in here?
I have no idea. I haven't read it because there's no evidence it applies to me.
Oh. Well, the most cost-effective way to make payment would be to probably get unless you have an employer. If you have an employer, we can just have the employer deduct it from your paycheck.
Absolutely not. That is unacceptable. I'm not going to be robbed using another third party, okay? I'm happy to follow whatever guidance that you want to give me on how to make payments. However, I am going to challenge the notion that you will not accept cash because you are a government agency. And if you do not accept cash, then you are violating my rights under the color of law, and that is a federal offense.
Yeah, well, I just don't have a way to take cash here.
Oh, all right. How much, what are the payments? So if we agree to make a monthly payment, you're going to stop trying to collect it in other ways, and I will happily give you the payment every month. So what is the amount?
It looks like this is asking for $100 per month.
For how long?
Well, this is looking like this is an arrears order, so it's just basically up to a certain amount.
Okay, and what is that amount?
That amount looks like $23,719.36.
So $100 a month for however many years it takes for that balance to go down? That's what you're asking for?
Something like that.
And is there interest?
No.
Okay.
But we're not sure if Washington has interest, do you know?
Yeah, do you know, I don't know.
I haven't, they like you guys have never shown me evidence of jurisdiction, so I can't read the documents. That's why you can't say the code applies, because the code says it applies. I'm not reading the code until I know it applies. Right, until you can prove to me that it applies, and doing that will not be these pieces of paper, because you can't even circle the evidence.
But we have offered you to go talk to some attorneys who handle this, child support attorneys, deputies, attorney general.
They're not gonna be able to circle the evidence either. It's a spoiler alert. We already know that they're a criminal organization, so.
Okay. So as I said, the most cost-effective way to make payment is probably to get a money order, unless you have a checking account.
Well, here's my $100 for this month. have a public records request here. I need to see if I need to add anything to it.
Let me ask if we can accept.
I don't care if you want to accept it or not. Just take a look at this. Right there. And maybe consider that not everybody can make payments in other ways. And then can I have a print off of what the payment plan will be and what the dates are by which I will make payments?
Well,
And I do have assurance that by making this payment, then you're going to cease attempting to collect from me in other ways, because we're going to keep this as voluntary as we possibly can, correct?
unfortunately, that order doesn't really, it pretty much makes the whole amount due. And so I think it says in here that,
So you're telling me that this agency is going to take somebody who's willing to voluntarily make payments because he has communicated with you as quickly as he could, as soon as he knew that this was even an obligation being created, you're gonna try and tell me that I have to pay the full amount?
in this particular order, they didn't check that box. So, it says here that there's this thing that says it's subject to liens, foreclosure, seizure of property, federal and state tax refund, interception, garnishment. That box isn't checked.
Yeah, well, guess what? I have not been notified of this. I didn't even get my chance to appear in court, so this is not valid.
So this one is, so, well, you know, I think it might well be worth appealing it. As far as the schedule of payments, this one says that the payments are $100 a month starting on July of 2024.
Okay, well, it's too late to start it on that date, so let's talk about the here and now. I didn't even know about this in July of 2024. So I believe that there are rules regarding how documents are served. I never received any document indicating that we were going to court. So that's a big problem for you guys if it's not corrected. So give me my opportunity to either go to court or accept my voluntary payments from this day forward and get rid of these bullshit orders. See, notice how it says, ordered, adjudged, and decreed, right? According to who? Who has the right to order me to do anything? Do I have the right to order you to do anything? Do I have the right to steal from you, right? If I come up and say, hey, I need 10% of the money you make, do I have that right?
I would not like to cede that right to you, no.
Okay, so now let's say I find 10 friends to all sign a document that says, okay, now he has that right to take that money. Does that make it to where now I have that right?
It certainly wouldn't feel good to me, and I can understand why it might not feel good to you.
Okay, so what is the number of people that I need to sign a document to say it is okay for me to steal 10% of your money to make it to where you have to do it?
Well, if a judge signs an order.
Oh, hey, wait, you're a judge, right?
Yeah.
She's acting as judge today. Let me just get her to sign a quick order because that's all that's needed, right? Is there some ritual we need to perform? I hereby cede all authority to you, Judge, to issue this order against Nathan Leopold. Do you accept? Do you raise your right hand, say, I accept?
Yep.
Okay, so we just performed a ritual now, right? You see the problem?
Well, no, I do see the problem. It's just that, you know, this is the world that I'm living in.
So when Socrates comes up,
Mhm.
and he says, hey, I'm asking you a question. Are you gonna be one of the people that orders his execution? Because right now, that's how you're acting. This is just the system. This is just the way it is. This is just what I'm told to do. It's how I get my paycheck.
I think that it's very brave to try and go up against such a big system, and you know, I'd be happy to do what I can to help you in going up against the system.
The system is smaller than me.
Good for you. And you know, good luck and Godspeed to you. And there's a lot of, you know, any big change starts with one person.
Do you want to go ahead and let me know what your salary is since it's public information?
I don't have a number in my head right now. I don't know it off the top of my head. I could probably come at some kind of a guess, but
I'll just add it to the public records request and that way I'll get it.
that's fine.
But I was gonna say it's probably very small compared to what you could make if you decided to have an ethical job.
I would like an ethical job that paid more.
Yeah, I imagine you would. Then there would never be any concern about whether or not you're working for a criminal organization, right? Like, and I have to tell you, I appreciate you, okay? Because of all the government agents that I have met, you have done the best regarding seeing the logic, right? I've gone in front of judges, I've had them threaten me with violence, I've had them throw me in cages, and all I've ever asked them is, what factual evidence do you have that I'm obligated to obey your orders? And they don't like it.
I do know where you're coming from. I do know where you're coming from, and I'm trying to walk a line between saying that you're wrong and just trying to, you know, act out the role that I've carved out for myself here, and also, you know, do what I can to actually help you to the extent that you want actual help.
It's never too late to allow new information to alter your paradigm, because the opportunities that are out there in this world, you would be amazed at what you're able to do and how much power you have to do what you want to do. If it weren't for you guys getting involved with your violence, the money would have gotten to her already.
I hear you.
So I need assurance that I can make monthly payments from this day forward. And I'm not gonna have to worry about any court bullshit. I'm not gonna have to worry about anybody trying to take my money. I'll happily pay at least $100. And I'll bet you that I will pay more than $100. And I'll bet you that I will get it paid off much quicker. All I'm asking, stop the violence, please.
There are times when there is room for a little bit of discretion. A lot of, there's not, especially while you're filming and everything, it's not easy for me to give blanket assurances of the kind that you're asking for, but I'd certainly like to see our office work with you as, congenially and, simply, to where you can try and be in integrity with yourself and still, deal with this in a reasonable way and, do what you think is right in terms of how you're trying to make payments on it and keep it simple and so forth and so on. Generally, anytime there is any kind of enforcement action, there's a notice that goes first, where there's a time period before the enforcement happens, that there's time to discuss it and appeal it and look at whether it has to happen or there's alternatives and things like that. So I don't know that that's any reassurance or anything good, but
It would be reassurance if I had been notified that this was happening in the first place, if I had had an opportunity to go to court. And that's something that I think if you want to show good faith, then back up.
Yeah, and those things should, you're right, there is a service issue. There has to be service. There has to be some way that they can say that they gave you notice of that before they filed it in court.
Right, so I believe that it was sent to a third-party mailbox and that I never signed it and I never had access to that mailbox, and there was a period of time where I did not get mail from that mailbox. And I tried warning Oregon, because they were trying to get me in Oregon, and I let them know, hey, you can't send things to this address. But he didn't like the way that I was talking, so he hung up on me, and then he forwarded to here with that address, and I never got it. So I never signed for it, I never received it, so there is an issue of service.
I've heard something about those mailboxes, when you sign up for the mailboxes, that you sign something that signs over your authority to sign for legal documents to the person who runs the mailbox. So you might try just double checking that, see if you can see if the mailbox person has a copy of what you signed, and see if you did in fact see that authority, or if there's a loophole there.
Okay. Well, so in that case, then I would say perhaps I made a mistake, and please work with me so that I don't feel like I'm coming in here documenting a crime every single time that I'm handing you money. Please work with me.
I'd be happy to work with you and try to do this in as much in integrity as we can.
I appreciate that.
I understand what you mean about all legal tender for all debts, public and private. And in Oahu, they let them take cash. They have a different system. Over here, we'd have to somehow either send cash through the mail to Oahu, because we don't have like a CSEA bank over here. All the checks and stuff we get, we bundle them up as checks and send them over to Oahu, where they get deposited where our accountants are. So
So what, out of curiosity, what forms of payments do you make and what fees do you attach to those payments where you require people to pay more because you're not willing to accept cash?
Sure. Well, for example, this little machine in back of you here, or I think it's in back of you somewhere there, it's it takes credit cards. But I'm always warning people, a lot of those ones, they're handled by a third-party company that charges about a 3% rake off the top.
Right.
It's a convenience fee, like when you're using a foreign ATM. That's why I say like the money orders, where like Walmart will sell a money order for $1.25, especially with large payments. On a $100 payment, you know, a 3% convenience fee isn't that crazy. It might be worth the convenience. But with a $1,000 payment, now we're looking at $30, and you know, much better to get a money order or something. On the other hand, if you have a credit union or something like that, sometimes they'll give you a cashier's check or something right at the counter with no extra fees. We don't charge any fees to take the money on this side once you bring in, you know, a cashier's check or a money order from the post office or from wherever. You know, there's no extra fee to process it from our end.
Okay, so it's my job to clarify.
Okay.
So to clarify some of this, you are requiring me, you're ordering me to pay some money, okay? And you are requiring me to enter into an agreement with a third party, in order to accept the payment that you have ordered me under threat of violence, under a judge's order. You're requiring me to contract with a third party. And so you're making my fulfillment of that order contingent upon a third party's willingness to negotiate with me. And that is by definition cruel and unusual punishment.
You have a very interesting legal mind about that kind of thing, and I see the lines you're drawing there. Do you have something against checking accounts?
I don't want you having information about me and trying to take money from me without my permission.
I hear you. I'm bringing up the checking account, not so that we could access your bank, although we haven't been known to do that. Not from somebody's checking account, but, I mean, not from somebody giving us a check, but.
I assume you would document the routing number and the account number in case you needed it for future, right?
I don't think we even need to. There's big programs that just provide, you know, the banks just in general provide lists of, you know, there's an interface between people who owe child support and people who have bank accounts.
Yeah, and the banks would do that, considering that they created the whole fractional, their central banking system, right? Which is what you're forcing me to use, because I assume you won't accept the currency that I would like to provide you.
Like this one.
No, like a Bitcoin.
As of now, I don't know of any particular way we could take Bitcoin.
Yeah, so you're forcing me to use the currency of the central bank.
Okay, so where are we?
He's really trying to be cooperative as long as he can maintain his dignity and integrity as much as he can. He's wanting to make payments on a regular basis, but we're having a serious discussion about what form of payment we'll accept and what will be the most reasonable thing that doesn't incur extra expenses and extra obligations on his side.
So we're happy to accept payment, but not cash payment. It needs to be turned into a check, money order. If you have a bank or 7-Eleven or something.
So then that's by definition cruel and unusual punishment that you're engaging in. I mean, she doesn't know the logic of what I'm saying, so she's just gonna keep trying to say more, but like we've established that is by definition cruel and unusual punishment.
I guess I'm not familiar as you are with the definition of cruel and unusual punishment, but I saw you draw the distinction because we're forcing you to contract with a third party in order to pay the obligation that you're already being forced to pay.
Right.
So it seems like insult upon insult or something, or injury upon injury.
Yeah,
So that's why you're saying cruel and unusual.
You can't, if somebody does something wrong and you sentence them, you cannot make their fulfillment of the sentence dependent upon somebody else, because that takes it out of their hands. Like, now you don't even care about if they're remorseful, you don't care about their attempt at all, you're just putting it in a third party's hands. So that's why it's cruel and unusual punishment, because now you're leaving the judgment up to somebody else.
Well, yeah, we could think about it a little. I just, we have this technical problem of, you know, how to safely get this to the bank where the agency banks in Oahu.
Just mail it.
Mail the cash?
Yeah, it's simple. If you want me to mail the cash next time, then I will.
Well, I don't know, if you mail cash to Oahu, I don't know, we're encouraged to tell people not to mail cash because there's not really tracing on it, and you know, you get into a, I sent it, we didn't get it, kind of a thing where, you know, it seems like a setup to create more problems, you know. But
Well,
sometimes it would work. Sometimes that cash would get right from where you mailed it to where they were at, and I don't know what they would do then. I guess they could accept it then in those cases, but I just worry about the cases where, for whatever reason, they don't get it, or somebody pockets it somewhere in between, and, you know, then it turns into a he said, she said thing that I don't know how to resolve that either.
well, I'll accept responsibility if anybody claims. I'll be able to investigate as to whether or not anybody that opened up the mail actually saw the cash, so I'll be able to see if anybody pocketed it.
Well, I don't know, maybe that's the best thing, but it's not something we can endorse exactly. It's not something we, you know, all our paperwork where we tell people how to make payments is do not mail cash, but they do accept cash in Oahu. It's not that they can't accept
Yeah,
cash in
you can-
Oahu.
It's up to you if you want to mail the cash there.
Well, this is my good faith payment, and I want to see you guys operate in good faith, so I'm just gonna leave the 100 with you. I'm going to assume that the payment has been made, and I will follow a monthly schedule whereby, what's the date today, the 12th? So I'll adopt a monthly schedule whereby by the 15th of every month, I will pay $100 at least toward this account.
Okay. And if you get any correspondence from our agency that makes you think that there's some action being taken for further enforcement in spite of the good faith arrangement, you can come talk to me about it.
I will, thank you. And here is my public records request. I'll go ahead and give my autograph, it's not a signature.
Karen.
I will give my signature. And I will give my email address. And I will give my phone number.
And what I'm probably gonna do with this $100 bill is I'm gonna write my own personal check and just send it in to make sure that the payment gets there. But I don't wanna do that a whole bunch of times, so I'm just, you know, and there's no policy here of the agency for me to do that, but that way I can feel more comfortable that the payment's gonna get there.
Well, if I have your guys' assurance that you're not going to negatively use my information, then I may use a check. But I want to know that I can trust you. I don't like dealing with government agents because oftentimes they just collect information, and my apologies, Karen Harata, but you have shown me an incredible amount of dishonor, okay, between the last time I was here and this time that I was here. I understand your mindset. I understand the way that you think, that you have been dishonorable in not attempting to actually solve the problems. This man, I believe, is attempting to actually solve the problems. So I want to be able to have trust. I know that everyone will laugh. You want to trust a child support enforcement agency with anything? Ha ha ha.
He's going beyond the normal policy.
I understand.
So that's,
Well, considering that this agency has not been following policies, I am happy to see somebody go beyond the normal policy. And I would expect that at least by the next time that I visit this office, you have caught up and started to follow the actual policies that you are legally obligated to. Quit letting Brandon Flores whisper in your ear. Quit letting that attorney, what was his, Hill or something, whatever his name was, quit letting him whisper these false things in your ear. Read the law, read the code. Look at the other parts of the United States where this sort of thing is being looked at, and actually do the investigation yourself so that you are thinking for yourself rather than just being told what to do. This is my public records request. I'd like a copy of it, stamped, received.
This is a complaint about,
Thank you. And then last question, what percentage of that $100 bill is going to get to Beth Anna?
we're not taking a cut on it or anything. She should, I expect, get well, we're gonna transmit it to the state of Washington. So exactly what the state of Washington does from there is kind of their child support is organized on a state-by-state basis. But as far as I anticipate, according to the orders that I've seen, it would pretty much all go to her. But I don't really know. Check and see if you have a way to. If she doesn't get the full 100, then let us know, and I can try and ask Washington why, or what an explanation is of where the rest of the money's gone.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.